What you do in the last 10 seconds before you fall asleep determines how you feel for the entire next day, and almost nobody knows this. Not how long you sleep, not what you ate, not whether you exercised. 10 seconds of a specific deliberate action taken right before sleep has a measurable effect on your brain chemistry the following morning that researchers have now documented clearly. And most people are spending those 10 seconds doing something that is actively making their mornings worse without ever realizing it. Here is the pain point that most people never connect. You go to bed tired. You wake up already exhausted, already slightly anxious, already behind before the day has even started. You drag yourself through the morning running on caffeine and obligation and wonder why you cannot seem to access that feeling of genuine energy and positivity that other people seem to have naturally. You assume it is just who you are, a morning person or not a morning person. But that assumption is wrong, and the real explanation is happening at a chemical level inside your brain while you sleep. By the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what to do for 10 seconds before bed to wake up happy every morning, the specific action, the exact science behind why it works, and the complete bedtime routine that maximizes its effect every single night. And the last thing I share in this video is the one that will genuinely surprise you. It is the most powerful element of your pre-sleep routine, and it has nothing to do with relaxation, breathing, or anything you have ever been told about sleep hygiene. Stay with me for that one, because it is the piece that makes everything else work twice as well. Habit number 1. The 10-second gratitude imprint. The first and most important thing to do in the 10 seconds before you fall asleep is what neuroscientists call a positive memory consolidation, and the simplest way to do it is what I call the 10-second gratitude imprint. Here is the science. During sleep, your brain does not simply rest. It actively processes and consolidates the emotional content of your day, strengthening the neural pathways associated with whatever emotional state dominated your final waking moments. Researchers studying memory consolidation found that the emotional tone of your thoughts immediately before sleep disproportionately influences which memories get strengthened and which emotional patterns get reinforced overnight. In simple terms, whatever you are feeling in your last 10 seconds of consciousness gets processed and amplified by your sleeping brain. If those final 10 seconds are filled with worry about tomorrow, replaying problems from today, or the anxious stimulation of a phone screen, your brain consolidates and strengthens those negative emotional patterns overnight. You wake up having literally practiced anxiety and stress for 8 hours. But if those final 10 seconds are filled with one specific, genuine, positive feeling, your brain consolidates and strengthens that emotional pattern instead, and the cortisol awakening response that follows is measurably calmer, more regulated, and more conducive to waking up feeling genuinely good. Here is your action tonight. In the last 10 seconds before you close your eyes, not 10 minutes before, not while you are still scrolling, in the literal final 10 seconds before sleep arrives, bring one specific thing to mind that made you feel genuinely good today. Not a list, one thing. One real specific moment. The exact sound of a laugh. The feeling of finishing something. A moment of genuine warmth or connection. Hold that one specific feeling in your mind as you cross the threshold into sleep. Let it be the last thing your brain registers before consciousness fades. That is the 10-second gratitude imprint, and your brain will process and strengthen that emotional pattern for the next 8 hours. Now, the next step is something that most people do in the wrong order. And once you understand why the order matters, you will never approach your bedtime routine the same way again. Habit number 2. The phone cutoff window. The second element is one you have probably heard before, but the specific timing most people use is wrong, and the wrong timing makes this advice almost completely ineffective. Most sleep hygiene advice says to stop using your phone 30 minutes before bed. The research actually shows the critical window is significantly longer than that. Studies measuring blue light exposure and melatonin suppression found that the light from phone screens suppresses melatonin production for up to 90 minutes after exposure ends. Melatonin is not just your sleep hormone. It is your nervous system's primary signal that the day is over and recovery can begin. Without adequate melatonin, your nervous system stays partially activated throughout sleep, which means your cortisol awakening response the following morning is dysregulated before you even perform your 10-second imprint. But here is the piece of research that most people never hear. The content you consume on your phone in the final hour before bed is processed by your brain as emotionally significant information that needs to be filed and integrated. News, social media, other people's problems, other people's highlights, comparison content, conflict content. Your brain does not filter this as irrelevant entertainment. It treats it as important social information that requires emotional processing, and that processing happens overnight, competing directly with, and often overriding, the positive emotional consolidation you are trying to create. Here is your action. Move your phone cutoff to 90 minutes before your actual sleep time. Not 30 minutes, 90. This single change gives your melatonin system enough time to fully activate before sleep begins and removes the competing emotional content that undermines your 10-second imprint. If 90 minutes feels impossible, start with 60, but work toward 90. The difference in your morning emotional baseline within 1 week will be noticeable. Here is the crazy part. Researchers found that people who consistently maintained a 90-minute phone-free window before sleep reported significantly better morning mood, lower morning anxiety, and higher motivation within 7 days without any other changes to their routine or lifestyle. Share this with someone who scrolls until they fall asleep and then wonders why they wake up exhausted and anxious, because the connection between their evening phone use and their morning emotional state is not a coincidence. It is chemistry. Now, number 3. This one involves what you do with your body in the final minutes before sleep, and it is simpler than anything you have ever been told about sleep preparation. Habit number 3. The body temperature drop. The third element that determines how you feel when you wake up is your core body temperature in the final 20 to 30 minutes before sleep. And most people are accidentally keeping their body temperature too high, which disrupts the quality of their sleep and directly worsens their morning cortisol awakening response. Your body naturally begins dropping its core temperature as part of the process of preparing for sleep. This temperature drop signals your nervous system that it is safe to fully deactivate and enter deep restorative sleep. When your body temperature stays elevated because of a warm room, a hot shower taken too close to bedtime, heavy blankets, or physical exertion too late in the evening, your nervous system interprets this as a signal that the body is still active and does not fully complete the deactivation process. The result is lighter, less restorative sleep and a more reactive cortisol awakening response in the morning. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley found that a drop in core body temperature of just 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit was one of the most reliable triggers for deep non-REM sleep, the most restorative and neurochemically regenerative stage of the sleep cycle. Here is your action. 20 to 30 minutes before sleep, expose your hands and feet to slightly cool air. Your hands and feet are your body's primary temperature regulation surfaces. They release heat most efficiently. Simply keeping them outside your blankets, lowering your room temperature slightly, or running cool water over your wrists for 30 seconds accelerates the natural body temperature drop that triggers deep sleep. This is not a dramatic intervention. It is a tiny biological nudge, but the effect on sleep quality and morning mood is measurable. Now, number 4. This one is about what you say to yourself in the final minutes before sleep. And the research behind this is some of the most fascinating pre-sleep neuroscience I have ever come across. Habit number 4. The morning intention script. The fourth element is something that sounds almost too simple to be scientifically significant, but the research behind it is extraordinary. In the final 2 to 3 minutes before sleep, your brain enters a unique state of heightened receptivity to suggestion and self-directed thought, called the hypnagogic state. This is the threshold between wakefulness and sleep where your conscious mind begins to release control and your subconscious mind becomes temporarily more accessible and more responsive to direct input. Researchers studying pre-sleep cognition found that thoughts held in the hypnagogic state have a disproportionately strong influence on your emotional tone upon waking, significantly stronger than thoughts held earlier in the evening. The hypnagogic state is essentially a brief daily window where your brain is more open to being told what to expect and how to feel about the coming day than at almost any other moment. The morning intention script uses this window deliberately. In the final 2 to 3 minutes before sleep, after your 10-second gratitude imprint, you say one simple sentence in your mind. Tomorrow, I wake up feeling rested, clear, and ready. Not as an affirmation, not as positive thinking, as a direct instruction to a brain that is in its most receptive and suggestible state. Your brain hears this instruction in the hypnagogic state and uses it as a template for the emotional content it delivers to you at the moment of waking. Here is your action tonight. In the final 2 to 3 minutes before sleep, after your phone has been away for 90 minutes, say one sentence silently in your mind. Tomorrow, I wake up feeling rested, clear, and ready. Say it once with genuine intention. Then let sleep take you. That is all. Your brain will do the rest. Now, everything I have shared so far is real and it works. The 10-second gratitude imprint sets the emotional content your brain consolidates overnight. The 90-minute phone cutoff removes competing negative content and allows melatonin to fully activate. The body temperature drop triggers deep, restorative sleep. And the morning intention script uses the hypnagogic window to direct your brain toward a positive waking state. But this last element, this is the one that makes everything else work twice as effectively. And it is the most surprising thing on this entire list. I almost did not include it because I was not sure people would believe it, but the science is so clear that I cannot leave it out. Habit number 5, the morning light contract. Now, everything I have shared so far targets what happens before and during sleep, but this final element targets the exact moment of waking, and it is the thing that locks in everything your brain prepared overnight and determines whether the positive emotional state you cultivated actually reaches you fully or gets immediately overridden. It is this. The moment you wake up, before your phone, before your thoughts about the day, before anything external enters your awareness, you go to a window or step outside and expose your eyes to natural morning light for 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. That is the entire action. Here is why it is so powerful. Your cortisol awakening response, the morning brain chemistry that determines your energy and emotional baseline, is calibrated and anchored by your first light exposure of the day. Natural morning light contains specific wavelengths, particularly in the blue spectrum, that activate your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock of your circadian system, and signal it to set your cortisol and serotonin rhythm for the entire day. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman at Stanford has documented this mechanism extensively. Morning light exposure within the first minutes of waking is one of the single most powerful biological regulators of mood, energy, focus, and emotional stability that exists, and the effect begins within seconds of the light hitting your retinas, not after minutes of exposure. 10 seconds of genuine natural morning light is enough to begin anchoring your morning cortisol response and activating your serotonin system. Here is your complete action. Tonight, do your 90-minute phone cutoff. Cool your hands and feet before sleep. Set your morning intention in the hypnagogic window. Hold one genuine positive memory as your last 10 seconds of consciousness. And tomorrow morning, before anything else, find 10 seconds of natural light. Open a window. Step outside. Just 10 seconds of morning sky. That is the full system. That is what it takes to do this for 10 seconds before bed and wake up happy every morning. Save this video. This complete bedtime system is worth coming back to every night until it becomes automatic, because once it becomes automatic, your mornings will feel different in a way that is hard to fully explain until you have experienced it yourself.